A very warm welcome to all our viewers. Today, it is a very unique conversation we're going to have with. So, we have a very, very esteemed, plethora filled knowledge people with us. So, they are multifaceted, they are high in knowledge, and they have been the pivotal reason for this entire PreSense, which is a e-magazine, to run for the past 17 years. Today, we are stepping into the 200th edition of PreSense, which is a historical step. And with pride, we have to say that we've also won the world record in ensuring that we are the longest surviving digital e-magazine for the past 17 years. So with that step, we have the founder and the managing editor, Mr. Prime Point Srinivasan, with us. We have Ms. Susan Koshi, who had been with the editorial team for over a decade and had taken positions to the helm of this organization. And we also have Mr. Shakti Prasanna, who had been with PreSense since the day of inception. And we have Srinivas Gopal, who has been in the editorial team, giving them the editorial support and being a biggest technical backing. So with no further delay, so I am taking over to Mr. Prime Point Srinivasan, who has been the founder and the managing editor of PreSense and who had actually made this baby come into, this concept to come into reality. So Srinivasan, sir, please tell me, why did you do this digitally magazine? Like, what prompted you to come into here?
If I want to narrate about this particular reason, I was to go back to the original, my thought of starting a newsletter. As you all know that concept of internet came in 1995 on 15th of August. I was there with the VSNL. At the time, I was the founder and General Secretary of Public Sector PR Forum. On 15th August 1995, I was with the VSNL when internet was rolled out for commercial use in India. It was such a awesome and thrilling experience for me. That gave me a lot of interest on digital thing. Though it was a very at the time it was very slow with 18 kbps, kilobytes. Now we are talking about 300, 400 megabytes. Then in 2002, at the time I was running groups, discussion groups, even before Yahoo and Google came into existence. We had a e-list, one list, and egroups.com. I was running major groups, international level of groups for public relation, communication, journalism, and so image management and all. At the time in 2002, I just wanted to test a newsletter. But I brought a lot of experts from across the world and then published interviews. But after 8th edition, I had to stop it because it was an advanced technology and there was not readers. Then I stopped it. Probably in 2006, again, on the instance of Dr. Abdul Kalam for a positive journalism. At that time, Dr. Abdul Kalam was going on preaching everywhere that journalism should be positive. So at the time we started again thinking of that. That was the day, the real day on which the concept or the seed for the current PreSense was sown.
So before I go to Susan, ma'am, I'm very interested to ask Shakti Prasanna, because you were there when this concept was conceived, when there was discussion, and when we had a lot of understanding, like how will it come into reality? What went through your mind, Prasanna? Why did you think this will be a successful step?
Yeah. So I'll also start from the very beginning, from the very first meeting when this e-zine was conceptualized. So we were a group of Anna University students, and back in 2005, we used to visit Srinivasan's house very often those days. We were actually doing image audit for Srinivasan sir for many corporates. So one fine day, sir called all of us to meet in his house. We thought this is going to be a brief for yet another image audit project. So we went to his house with that mindset. And then suddenly, Srinivasan sir was talking about how Abdul Kalam was preaching those days about positive journalism. And he said we should do something about it. and most of us were caught unawares. We were actually looking at each other, what to do, and then a lot of ideas were bounced off by all the participants. And we were talking about blogs. Blogs were kind of coming up those days. We were talking about blogs, newsletters, write up in the magazines. A lot of ideas were thrown up, and one the I should say that that golden moment presented itself when Srinivasan said, he said, why don't we start an e-sign with a tap on the table? So that was the golden moment. With the tap on the table, PreSense was born. Okay, and he did not even say e-magazine at that point of time. You must remember, back in 2005, he had the vision to even name it as e-sign. So he says, why don't we start as e-sign? Okay, so that was the story of the birth of PreSense e-sign magazine, and then immediately we all agreed, and then we were discussing about what name to keep. And then we were talking about communication. So that how the name PreSense came through. And Sar will elaborate more on what his idea was to name the magazine is as. So that point of time, immediately we got into the act. As you know, Sar is a man of action, and there is absolutely nothing called delay in his no in his life. So immediately we got into action. We one of our junior who's very a good designer, he immediately started sketching the logo of the magazine, and then the same day in the evening the logo was finalized. So the name is finalized, the logo is finalized, what we are going to do is finalized. Now came the part of the difficult part came up of finding the right content. So I mean, as you all are aware, Srinivasan sir had a lot of contacts, and since this idea was kind of came as a brainchild because of the cause Dr. Abdul Kalam was telling all of us to create positive journalism. Srinivasan sir started to do the interview with Mr. Y.S. Rajan himself, and then his was the first interview, and then other positive stories followed. So this was the first meeting, and that point of time we were not sure, or we were not aware what is magazine is all about. We were not sure how long it will go, but actually to reach the 200th
And you
milestone
also
edition,
didn't know from there in about, no, you wouldn't even know from there in about 17 years you would be an AGM in a multinational company. Or how the journey has actually taken you
Exactly.
over.
Priya, do you know what was the time difference between the day on which the first meeting was held and released? 18th February, we all sat for a discussion to conceive this concept. And 6th March 2006, the edition was released online by Dr. Y.S. Rajan. That's how it has happened. Hardly 18 days of difference. As you know that...
in 70 plus, if you can be in this energy level, I know in 50 plus, what would it have been? I can completely relate to it. And Susan ma'am, this is something which I also personally wanted to know. See, one, it is always a perception that if you want to write, like either you should be really very strong as an author, or it's a digital magazine, so you should be really strong in computers. So as much as I understand, you haven't been an author back end. You had actually been from banking industry. You had been the GM for a bank, and then you have been the editor-in-chief at one point in time with PreSense. And your articles have been so widely read. And you tell me what actually triggered you to get into writing, first point. And secondly, why would you volunteer to be with only PreSense? There could have been other offers that you had. So how is it you kind of connected to PreSense and stayed for more than a decade with here?
To start with, I've always found language an interesting aspect in my life. I enjoyed writing. Maybe because of the creativity that is involved, I found creativity very interesting. I had taken a break, a rather voluntary retirement from my banking industry. And simply with the purpose of exploring what's there more in life that I can try to do. Because while I was in the banking industry, I was also the editor of an in-house magazine. And that's when I found it very interesting to write and to be involved in the job that's associated with it. Besides that, we have this interdepartmental change of portfolio. And for a period of time when I had actually met Mr. Srinivasan, I was in the corporate communications. So communication was something that excited me far more than financial statements and figures. So I knew there's something there that I wanted to explore. So when I quit and I came back to the place I am now, I had the opportunity of meeting up with Mr. Srinivasan once again after more than a decade. And he said he's into a lot of activities, including an e-magazine. And he said, why don't you join? And I joined the committee at that time. And this gave me the chance to write and also contribute by way of ideas and making the magazine. And this was something that I was passionate about, offered to me on a platter. And who would refuse such a golden opportunity? And Srinivasan, I don't need to say, all of you know, is a motivator. It's the light that kindles all of us, the passion that's within us, and there's no going back after that.
And what is a topic you enjoy writing the most, ma'am? Like, which is the genre you like writing the most?
Okay, that was a time when this feel-good factor cliche was the in thing. But honestly, anything that makes you feel good, anything positive, something that gives a kind of a motivation, something that makes sense in one's life, like, for example, environment is nature, things to do with nature, things to do with environment, anything that would give a positive motivation to people. I know I wrote about bicycling because I'm passionate about that, and I thought that's a fantastic thing. And even things that which arouse your what shall I say, arouse your impression, like things I wrote about Om, the word Om, and I think that is absolutely interesting, because when you start comparing and you discover that there's something more than just what is presented on paper. So those kind of researching information is what
That was a beautiful
interests me.
article, ma'am. Trust me, the article you wrote on OM was such a well-researched article. I think we've been carrying it for quite many other compilations we've been having in our PreSense. That's one of the best articles, which really struck me so close.
And that was something very special to me.
That was also one of the well-read articles and appreciated by many people, because she has compared that how the Om, the syllable Om, has embedded in all the religions.
And the beautiful part is you don't follow Hinduism, but people believe that Om is to do with Hinduism, and you had given it so much of understanding, not being following Hinduism, you belong to some other religion, but still you had actually justified it to the best. And you had given such a clarity that it is not religion specific. That's the point you wanted to make there.
That's the bottom line I wanted to put across, that there's no religion at all in life.
Wonderful. And Srinivas Gopal, you are an entrepreneur, and you had worked with Apple for a brief point of time. And then what actually pulled you to an e-magazine? And then I know you've been such a big technical support for all the programs that we've been doing, and all, you've been a great technical, support for all the online programs that we do. And then you chose to be in the PreSense editorial team as well. So what prompted you to be with the editorial?
Actually, Srinivasan sir is the main pillar of it. And even you, Priya. Srinivasan sir normally used to say, like, I'm a man with lesser words. One day he called me and he said, he asked me, you know why I'm calling you a man with a lesser word? Then I was like shocked why he's asking like this. Then he told me, okay, you can speak less, but you can write more. This is how it happened. My journey started. And after getting in the support which you gave, Susan ma'am, the way she handled me, I worked with Apple for almost 7.5 years. I have seen bosses, but the way she asked me to complete the work, Susan ma'am and all, I understood the other way. There is also another way. It's an easy way, a nice and smooth way to get the work also done. So this is how I came in. So a couple of articles I have also shared regarding technical only I have written. So this is how my journey started. Still I'm a man with lesser words.
Yes, you are. So, Srinivasan, so please tell me, how did this word PR sense come over, which turned to PreSense? Technically, you wanted a magazine for PR. Then it turned to be a magazine for communication. Then it turned to be a magazine for political analysis. Then it turned to be a comprehensive magazine, which writes everything and well researched. And the beautiful part of it is people refer our magazines because there is so much of research involved in it, and it is absolutely foolproof. So how did this evolution start from PR to what it is today, and how did the name pop up?
Actually, as our Shakti said, when we met on 18th February 2006, we thought of creating a e-magazine, e-sign at that time. We called it as a e-sign, and we wanted it for public relation, communication, journalism. The first 60 issues we carried, each one issue was on one single theme. Internal communication, external communication, even the social media at the time. Twitter had just come up, and Facebook had come up, each issue. And even we had how the 60 topics on communication, first 60. But it was so niche area, but the readership was less because it was going only to the communication people. So we thought that after the 60th edition, in the meanwhile, we also, Kalam sir wanted that we should start a cartoon. So we created another cartoon character, Prince. Trembak Sharma from Raipur we created. And then it was launched by Kalam sir himself. Kalam became a fan of Prince cartoon. So far, we have 185 Prince cartoons published so far. So what has happened, the cartoons, at the time it was only cartoon was one of the highest thing. The cartoons and other thing. Cartoon itself was one of the communication subject. How the cartoon, evolution of the cartoons, the best cartoons and all. We made one issue. After 60th issue, we just, we wanted to shift it to the general category because it was, the audience was less and it was niche. That's how it is. We shifted to a general category, and then we started covering politics. By the time we had a Sansad Ratna award, so that the politics had come, parliamentary analysis had come. So we had a lot of opportunity to write on many subjects wide. Even Susan used to write on environment. She is quite popular for environmental writings. So that's how this evolution. Now it is a mixed bag. So we have everything there, right from politics, environment, social issues, everything is there. From communication, originally the tagline was communicate, the communication was the tagline. Now it is a spreading the positive awareness, positive vibrations. Now the tagline is spreading positive vibration from 61st issue. Earlier it was communicate the communication. Communicate the communication also was given by in that same meeting, the February 2006 meeting, which Shakti was referring. And the logo and the tagline were decided on that day.
Sir, I've been like blessed to be associated with you for close to about 15 years now. So as much as I see you, you're one person. If you have an idea, you don't spend more time in planning it, which I think most of our ideas die in the verge of trying to do too much of planning. We feel that everything has to be in place before we take the first step. But you are one person, you have that idea, you have a little resource, you jump into it. And as you just cross the bridge when it comes. So I think that's how this entire PreSense, or be it Sansad Ratna, has actually started. You started it just like a fun factor, and it actually took a very gigantic stature of what it is right now. So where do you see e-magazine in the next 10 years, sir? Because now it is so much of virtual content, it is so much of online, it's so much of social media content. People don't want to read much. So where do you see e-magazine in the next 10 years?
First part is you are telling that quickly without much planning. The planning is always there for me. Without going for a planning, I don't jump in that. The concept, it's
But I meant most of us, we only end up planning because we feel every proper thing has to set in place. I decide I want to clean my wardrobe. I only keep deciding. I don't take the first step to do it. So
because we take up too many issues on one hand. Because once when I want to take up one particular issue, then particular issue I focus it, and then aaj hona, abhi hona. That is always another my Taraka mantra is with you, without you, in spite of you. Okay, we have to go ahead, means we have to go ahead. That will come what may. Let the people join or not join. That's a different issue. We will make it. So the same way that 18 days we were able to start. At that time, it was a very challenging. Nobody was willing to give any for an e-magazine type of a thing. Nobody was willing to give articles also. So that is why we requested Dr. Rajan, because it was a Kalams and Rajan, they are all associates, and immediately he realized that there must be something. He encouraged a lot. So that is how the concept came. Now, how I see after 10 years that e-magazine, it is very difficult to say. Now the technology is growing at a fast rate. Now I never last year, by this time, if you had asked me how the technology would grow, I would not have even thought of AI. Now we are thinking in terms of AI. We have even published a book on artificial intelligence. What are the challenges and opportunities? You are the co-author of the book also. Recently we were published. So we never last year, the same thing, or 6 months back, we never thought of it. So the technology is growing, but I have all along, I have been thinking that it is only digital, only technology oriented, no print, excepting that some of the 34 ebooks we have published. Some of the ebooks are in print, only for the sake of printing. But every time I do a lot of research and how the technology, whether the font is readable, whether it fits into all devices. Now the technology writing communication is totally different from traditional writing. You can have 4,000, 5,000 words in the print media, Times of India, Hindu, or any other newspapers. You can have 4,000 words. Easily it can be read. But 4,000 words in a digital media is horrible. You can't make it. Now today, brevity becomes important. So we need to concise every year. That's what I used to tell all our people also, reduce 600 words, 700 words, 800 words. Even as you know that you are the editor, you know that 1,200 words, beyond that we don't write a cover story. How much of pictures we are adding it to avoid a strain for the eyes, because the people are now, in my estimate, around more than 75% of the readers are reading it through small devices like mobile and iPad and small devices, not on the big devices like laptop or big screen. So we need to cater to their needs. The font is very, very important. The font is many times, you know what happened now today, the youngsters are having an eye problem. So we need to provide them. Many times we think it as a fashion and provide a dark background with a dark font, or light background with a light font. It is something horrible for the eyes. Eyes will get strained. So every time you will see brilliant white, all our, right from the day one, it is only white background, the darkest font only, because the contrast.
Yeah, I know that you've also been very conscious in telling the entire editorial team that don't be very fashionable, be creative, just be simple so that it is more readable. So, but so how do you see e-magazine next 10 years? So do you think that people will be to lesser reading? Because even newspapers these days, we are into tidbits. We only want it in bits. That news bits have come up. There are so many apps giving us news bits. We don't even want to read the entire newspaper. Forget about the newspaper, even on digital forum, people are not open to reading much these days. So having that as a challenge, so what do you see in the next 10 years?
No, it's a right question. Like one thing is that in a monthly magazine, what has happened today in all the news apps and other things, they are giving minute by minute news items. But we are all giving once in a month. So what the news apps are giving it, we can't provide, because we have to give an analysis. Suppose, say for an example, Israel-Palestine, now the war is going on. We can't give a blow-by-blow account. By the time when we are, after 1 month, when we are going to write a cover story or editorial on that, by the time lot of developments would have happened. So we need to write about the background. We need to write about something, some information which are new to the readers. So you can't give whatever the readers are already aware of it. So it's a very challenging to run a monthly magazine, that too with the cover stories and editorials. is a very, very challenging, because you are the current efforts, you have to be very difficult. And Susan also knows that. Every time she used to say, sir, by the time we might have finished a cover story, before it goes out, then by the time a lot of developments would have happened.
Develops better.
Lot of developments would have happened. So we have to rewrite the whole cover story. So
No,
this is
actually,
the challenge.
on that challenges note, sir, I'm actually getting to Susan ma'am here, because Susan ma'am has actually seen one of, she has been for obviously the longest time in the team, and she's also seen major challenges. I know there have been times that, because we've not spoke about the rosy factor of how we've been doing this, how the name had come, but anything which is as a process for decades together is not an easy thing, anything for that matter. So, Susan ma'am, there had been times that we had to struggle for pulling in articles. There had been times that we had to struggle to keep up the timelines, because Srinivasan sir is very particular. It has to go on the 1st of the month. It has to go on the 1st of the month. And because it's a voluntary organization, you don't really cannot, you can't force people, or you cannot kind of command them to be, on time. It is always taken as a second in, second in priority. So, ma'am, I want to hear from you the 5 biggest challenges that you faced running an e-magazine.
First challenge is myself. She has to start from the second only.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
Srinivas has already given one of them. No, as managing an e-magazine, I would enlist, you said 5. I hope I come up with 5. One, of course, you've already briefed, getting articles. Number 1 is getting articles itself from people, because we cannot run a magazine just Srinivasan and I writing or contributing to it. So getting articles itself is it's one of the challenges. Number 2, then we have our regular meetings when we decide what we can write on. Now, to get somebody to write it, there may be suggestions. Lots of people volunteer a lot of topics or themes, but you need somebody to sit down and write it. Now, to get someone motivated, or somebody who's able to handle that topic, which is interesting, but needs to write. That's the second thing. Thirdly is, you can write, as Srinivasan had said, the news can get stale by the time, since ours is a monthly thing. So even if it's a topical subject that we are writing on, we need to write something beyond what has already been reported. That's another challenge. But that's a positive challenge, because that's when you do research, you delve into areas that has not been covered, and then you yourself get to learn something. That is a challenge, but I think that's a positive challenge, something you look forward to. Then another thing is punctuality. That is a big challenge I've had, because like you said, since it is voluntary, there is a kind of a limitation in how you can impose yourself on a person to send it, because it's I have a ready-made, I've always got a ready-made response saying, look, I have this to do. As soon as I finish that, this is my bread and butter. So let me finish that, then I'll get to this. In spite of the fact that they already committed earlier that a particular deadline, because we follow up soon after the deadline. So it's not that we harp on it much before that. So that's another one. And another, as a proofreader, I was a proofreader too. I find it a personal challenge that sometimes each person has a style, and there may be errors in the expression. Now, when I'm trying to correct that, I have to be very cautious, careful that I do not bring in my style while I'm correcting that content. That is a very big challenge that I've faced. And I've always checked myself there. Am I somewhere bringing in my style of expression while I'm correcting an error that is in the content? So I keep sending it back to the author and say, is it okay? Are you sure this reads like your article? And I keep rechecking that with the person. That is a liberty I've taken, and I've been very, I express my humility to them, saying, look, do bear with me. I have made a correction in this aspect. Another area is, though it is rare, it is absolutely rare, there have been times when proper research has not been done. There have been wrong information given that has been reported. And if you just rely on the author, because whereas writing is supposed to be a stalwart in it, if you take it on face value and present it, I have found that there is wrong information given. It may be a year, or it may be some kind of numerical data, but it reflects on the credibility of our magazine. It may not be a serious thing, but it does reflect on the credibility of our magazine. So that is important. And there have been times where I do check up when there is an information given which is more researched. I go and I check and verify that the information is correct. And that's another challenge where you need to really be careful. My personal writing, yes, as Srinivasan said, I had a particular style of writing. It is a bit, I don't know if that's the right word, flamboyant or a little expressive, and ending up using some words which may be a bit higher.
Maybe we need to go back to the dictionary to understand.
Not always. So it is unfair to compare me to Shashi Tharoor. Definitely that Srinivasan keeps doing. That's not fair. But yes, I find a kind of a pleasure in using the right word, which may not be commonly used. So when I give it to Srinivasan, he says, please, I do not understand it. I said, then I start explaining to him, this means no. If I don't understand it, the readers may not understand it. So bring it down to a language, to the vocabulary level that people will understand. So that was a big challenge for me initially. Yes. After that, I sort of got into the tune, got into the into the mode that he wanted. And I think we got along quite well
usually,
after that.
This is a monthly magazine. So usually how many days you give for this magazine on an average?
Days.
How many days in a month you give for this magazine, for the work you take?
The moment, it starts from your cogwheels in your head. The moment one magazine is ready, the cogwheels start. What's there for the next? It's already working on, because you cannot leave it for a particular day to start thinking, because ideas don't come just like that when you switch on and switch off. It has to strike you like a brain wave. So it goes on. It's perpetually going on. Sometimes it's a continuous process. It's maybe, yes, I understand why you're asking the question. Sometimes you allocate a few hours or a few minutes, maybe half an hour in the initial stages, maybe a little more, a couple of hours later on. The moment the articles start coming, if it comes one at a time, then you spend about an hour on it, depending on how complex the article is. Towards the end, yes, there's a few hours that you spend on it. And that's it. But otherwise, it's okay. And I think I had the advantage of this relaxed time schedule, because I'm not working. I'm not gainfully employed. So this was a voluntary thing. So I had time for this voluntary work. If I say it's somebody like you who's tied down in a kind of a job, then yes, it could have been a bigger challenge. Then you may have to form your compartment of time schedule that this I will allocate for PreSense.
No, you have actually just come over to the point which I wanted a bit of your suggestion and your guidance, like for all of us, the younger team who are in PreSense. Is one, yes, there's a lot of flaws that we do. We've not been that, what should I say? We don't have that much of expertise like what you and Srinivasan sir have. So we are in the process of learning, one point. Second thing, all of us are employed and a family to take care of. And there are other priorities which kind of, overlap the work which we take on PreSense. So how do we, that's the reason I was just trying to ask, like, how do we manage this? Probably we just wanted to know it as a suggestion or some guidance you can give us. Like, how can we manage both of our family, profession, and our passion to write?